Hey guys, don't you stare at me. Today I wanted to share with you all of the books that I read in the month of February 2021. This is not focusing in the way that I wanted to. Let me scoot you back just a little bit. Let's see if that works. Does that work? Yeah, we're good. Okay, so I read, how many books did I read? Hold on. It's been 20 years since I've done this. 10 books. I read 10 books this month. So that's pretty good. I think I've started this year off with a pretty good kickstart, so I'm very, very happy about that. A lot of them were audiobooks. I've just been in a kick of that lately, so I only have a few here to show you physically. So let's just jump into it. The first book I read this month was Before the Coffee Gets Cold and It's Upside Down. We know how to do this. We know what we're doing, right? This is by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and it is a story. It is separated into 4 parts, 4 different stories following 4 different characters and people in their family. At this coffee shop in Tokyo, there is a certain seat that you can sit in and a certain type of coffee in a certain saucer poured by a certain person that allows you to travel forward or backward in time. And most people who've heard about it are like, well, I'm not doing it because there's so many rules and stipulations, and like the big one is that no matter what you do, you can't change anything that happens. Like you can't change the future or the past. So a lot of people just think that's dumb. Like why even go if nothing can happen from it? And we're following 4 different perspectives on them traveling forward or backward in time, and I think it's very interesting. I did make a full-length review of this book that goes into a lot more detail into like the hidden meanings behind this and the style of the writing. If you want to check that out, I'll put it in the cards above. And yeah, I gave this 3 stars. Liked it a lot. I think that there are a lot of things that could have been done better, but overall I did like it and I do recommend it if you're interested in just some interesting literature. Second thing I read this month would be The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This I gave 4 stars. It is a thriller involving a group of wedding guests and the bride and groom, of course, who are about to get married on this secluded island, and the audiobook was lovely, by the way. I recommend that. Everyone has, British, English, Scottish, Irish accents, and it's very well done. All the characters had different narrators, so it's a full cast. It was just marvelous. I enjoyed the whole process of listening to this. It did start off kind of slow, and if you like more of a fast pace, I don't think this is for you. This is more of a just finding out drama that has happened in the past and seeing where that leads to, murder and the mystery of it all. People die. They're trying to figure out who did it. Pasts of characters get revealed. So it's pretty good. It kept me interested the whole time. So I do recommend if you like thrillers. The next book I read was a Kindle, it wasn't Kindle Unlimited, it was NetGalley, that I received an ARC from very kindly from the author L.A. Detweiler. So thank you. Thank you very much. It's called The Redwood Asylum, a paranormal horror. Right now it only has like 50 ratings, so I do recommend checking it out if you're interested in a asylum type story. It's just a horror, spooky, haunted ghost story about regret and making wrong decisions and things haunting you and following you if you've done things in the past. I gave it 3 stars. I think that there's a lot to be said about this book, and I am currently editing a review for it. So if it's done before this gets uploaded, which probably not, I'll put it in the cards or in the description too. So just keep an eye out for that, and I'll be uploading it very soon where I go into much more detail as to what I like and didn't like about this book. I think that it has some good points to it, but also it was lacking in others. The next book I read was one that I did for a video that is also being edited. I'm the worst, y'all. I've been really bad lately, but whatever. It's Kira Kira by Cynthia Karohata. This is a middle grade, I think is the official aging of it. It's written from the perspective of a child. She starts off at about 5 or 6 years old, and it almost feels like we're reading her journal entries. It does grow with her, I think at the end she's like 11 or 12, and it's about her and her sister and her family. They're Japanese and they moved to I think they were originally living in like Iowa or something, and then they moved to Georgia. So they moved to a southern state. And at the time that this was made, I'm not sure what year this was, but at the year that this was staged, you know, there's still a lot of racism, and even workers' unions were beginning to be formed. There's a scene in here where the workers are having to wear diapers because they're not allowed to go to the restroom. So that kind of era. It's pretty shocking to read some of the things that were actually going on during this time. Of course, this isn't an autobiography, but it feels like one from a kid's perspective. And it's really interesting to see these harsh, horribly sad things happening, but from a kid's point of view, because, you know, as an adult, you're going to have your own way of seeing things, but through the eyes of a child, sometimes tragedies just seem like that's how it is, and that's just, you know, you don't know any different. So it's not usually as sad, but sometimes it's even worse. Like, she ends up losing her sister. That's not a spoiler, but the sister does get very, very sick, and we get to watch all of that. The hatred she has for her sister because she's getting attention, and then the sadness of suddenly losing her. So it's a roller coaster, and I did really, really like it. I got this as a blind date with a book off of Etsy, and I had no idea what it was. Took a chance. It's won some awards, if you can see that little thing on it, and I do really like it. I think it's definitely worth that sticker. And yeah, I gave it 4 stars. Really, really good. Okay, I'm really excited about this next one because I've heard a couple people talk about Alex North's thrillers, horror, whatever they're called, lately, and they really like them, but I did get a little bit turned off because they're about detectives when I heard people talking about them. I picked up the audiobook at my local library of The Shadows by Alex North. I loved it. It was fantastic. It was a lot like it. It felt like I was reading a different perspective of it in a way, but also a Slender Man twist to it, because you're following this group of like 4 or 5 boys, and our main character is one of them. There's a leader within the group, the little boys, and he is telling all of the other boys to keep dream diaries. And he is pretty much convincing them that this creature called Red Hands exists. And I don't want to spoil too much for you, but it's pretty much Slender Man. Some bad things end up happening, and you're following the perspective of him and a detective, but the detective part does not overshadow the interesting part of it. I do wish that we had had more of Red Hands being involved in this, because that was so cool to read about, and I absolutely love this story. I think the only thing that really made me not give it 5 stars, because I gave it 4, would have to be, I think the ending was a little weak. I think that it didn't have to end so wrapped up, but also bleh, like it felt kind of bland, and I guess I was just expecting more from that ending. It kind of went all over the place at the end. It tried to do some crazy fantastical like wrap around to make sense, and I just didn't think that was necessary. I think it could have just kind of been open-ended. I kind of like open endings in certain stories when it comes to like monsters and stuff. So yeah, I was a little disappointed in that, but I'm sure most people who like wrapped up endings would like it. So I recommend it. Really, really good. I am excited that I finally got to listen to one of their books. The next book I read was Shortcake Cake, Volume 11 by Sue Morishita. This is the newest out volume of the series, and I did pre-order this because I am trash for the series and the artists and author. I love it. I think that this series is just super cute. It's always got like a cute little dessert on the back of it with the number of the volume within one of the chocolates or the sweets or something. My graphic design dream of a design with on all of the covers, like the color palettes are gorgeous. The covers are beautiful. I just love the art. The characters are adorable, and I love where it's going. It's about to end. The next volume I think is the final volume, and I'm really sad about it. I've already pre-ordered it. I think it comes out in May, so I've got a good while to wait, which I'm sad about, but you know, I'll be done with it by then, and I can move on to their next series, which is about a girl who is deaf and mute, I think. But it's really cute. I read the first volume, liked it a lot. And I gave this volume 4 stars, so not a 5, but close enough. The next thing I read was Dead of Winter. This is by Keelan Patrick Burke. It is a short story collection. I think it has 7 stories in it. And I did rate each story individually, so I'll read that off to you here off my Goodreads. I gave the story Snowmen 4 stars. That was about a kid staring outside of his window looking at snowmen. Doomsday Father Christmas, I gave 5 stars, which was really interesting. And he explains the beginning of the book, the inspiration for some of these stories, and that one was pretty cool to read about. Black Static, I gave 3 stars. It was short, didn't care for it. A little too short, I think. Visitation Rights, 4 stars. That one was really good. Home, 3 stars. Don't remember it. The Quiet, 2 stars. Don't remember it. They Know, and 4 stars. So it averages out to a 3.5. I rounded it up to a 4 on Goodreads because I overall have like a good feeling when thinking about this book. So that made me round it up. It makes me want to read more of his work. I know he has, is it Sour Candy? And then Blanky. There's a ton of short stories by this person. And they would be about this length, but it's just one story in those. And I really like this. I think that more people should check out their work. This was only like $6 at my local bookstore. And I was very surprised because all of the other ones that are about this length are like $13. I don't know why. It doesn't have, this is a nitpicky thing, it doesn't have the title on the spine. So that's like my biggest critique of this book physically. That irritates the heck out of me because when it's on my shelf, I can't see what it is. No idea. It bothers me a lot. But when I was stuck in the house during all the big snowstorms, this kept me busy the whole day. And I read it almost in one full day, just absorbing the stories and really loving the way that he writes horror. It was truly eerie. Every story made me feel just kind of I don't know how to explain it, but if you just love that feeling of horror, this is one I'd recommend for sure. The next thing I read was also an audiobook that I got from my local library's Libby. It is The Push by Ashley Audrain. I think that's how you say their name. I'm seeing a ton of negative reviews for it, and while I understand what people are saying when they don't like it, it's classified as a thriller on Goodreads, and I think it was technically in the thriller section of Libby. It doesn't feel like a thriller until I'd say like 80% of the way through it. There's not a ton of action going on in this. It's mostly just following a family, a mother, father, and they have a child who ends up, the mother thinks that she hates her. She thinks that the daughter hates her. The husband is constantly gaslighting the wife and telling her she's crazy, she's overanalyzing things, she's making this all up in her head, and she goes through like postpartum depression, and it just turns into her developing a very unhealthy mental state. She doesn't abuse the child. She thinks about killing her, but she doesn't. And so there's just a lot of, is she actually evil, or is the mother losing her mind? That's kind of the big thing of this book, going back and forth. The push is she thinks at one point her daughter does something to someone, and she can't remember if it was just in her head that she made up that her daughter did this, or if it actually happened and her daughter is a crazy murderer. So you're trying to figure that out through the whole book. It's beautiful. It's lovely. I like the writing a lot. It was easy to follow along to. I listened to it in 1, maybe 2 days, like the whole book. It was just so good. And I do recommend it. I think I gave it 5 stars. It might have been, yeah, I gave this 5 stars. It has an average 4.22, so it does have a pretty good rating, but also it's in book of the month, so a lot of people will rate it really high for that. But I do recommend it. It was really good. It was fun. I thought it was thrilling, but not a typical thriller. So just be aware of that one going in. You're not getting like a whole thriller story. You're getting a drama with some thriller thrown in there. So just be aware. The next book I read this month was Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesar. This is a teen thriller slasher horror. I think it's technically a horror, but I'm going to call it a thriller horror. It says the kids are not all right. This was one that I was really anticipating from last year, 2020 release, and I finally had the Christmas money to pick it up, and I'm very happy that I did, because I love the concept of a clown murdering people. I have a fascination with killer clowns. I just really was excited about it. The imagery is gorgeous, and I'd heard some good things about it, but also I gave it 3 stars. So it's not that I was necessarily disappointed. I think I got what I wanted. I think I was just expecting one more thing than I got. It was, I wanted the clown to mean something, and it really didn't. They were just there. I don't know. I don't hate it for that. I guess I shouldn't have expected anything. I knew it wasn't going to be supernatural. Like, this isn't supernatural. This is like a realistic people killing people. But I guess I just wanted more with the clown concept. I really like clowns, and it was okay. You know, it got kind of complicated in parts for no reason. I don't think they were all necessary, but I did like the whole chase of killing the teenagers while they were doing it, and the methods. It was very descriptive in the killing, just like a movie, and it was a fun time. If you're just looking for a fun time, I recommend it. And the last thing I read this month was Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire. Almost sort of true, kind of. I finished it this month. I started this a long time ago. I was reading this with someone, and it just took us that long to get through it because we were reading like one chapter every other week or something. And for it being a short book, it took me a long time. But I do want to continue the series after reading this. I gave it 4 stars. This is a story about a group for children who have escaped to fantasy worlds, kind of like through a doorway, kind of like Narnia and those kind of things, or Alice in Wonderland. Hear me sneezing. There's a murder at the school, and they got to figure out who did it and why. And it's very mysterious and cool, and I want to continue the series. There's 10 books listed on Goodreads for it. It's a lot of books, but the covers are pretty and I'm excited, and they're all really short, so I'm not sad about it either. It's just they're all hardcover and expensive, and I'm cheap, and I bought this brand new, so I'm hoping I can get some of them used too. I'm sorry, $18 for this thin of a book? That's a lot. That's a lot, y'all. I'm cheap. It was good. I do recommend it. The author knows what she's doing. The characters are fun, and I like the idea. What did I give this? I forgot already. Gave it 4 stars. Good stuff. Gonna continue it. Recommend it. That's everything I read for the month of February 2021. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I'll see you in my TBR for the month of March. So have a good night. Bye, guys.